The beauty of fractions and decimals is that they are exactly the same thing. They show the same information in two different ways. An example of this would be 1/4. 1/4 means 1 out of 4. The denominator is the whole thing, and the numerator tells us what part it is that we're talking about. So, in my head, I sort of think of a pizza pie, and I think of 1/4 of the whole pie. It is also equal to 25 hundredths. The way I like to think of that is that a dollar is equal to 4 quarters. And if you look back at 25 hundredths, it almost looks like a quarter. So, if 25 hundredths is equal to 1 quarter, then I can see how 1/4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 quarter of them is equal to 1/4 of the whole thing. But let's try that again using just math. 1/4 is equal to what decimal? Again, I already know it's going to be 25 hundredths, but what I need to know is what fraction is it equal to? If I know that all decimals are in tenths, hundredths, and thousandths, then I know I need to get a fraction equal to something that is in a tenth, a hundredth, or a thousandth. So right now I want to know what times 4 is going to equal 10. Think about it a minute. What times 4 equals 10? Well, as it turns out, nothing times 4 equals 10. So I'm going to try and see if it goes into 100. 4 times what, or what times 4, would equal 100. If you need to, go ahead and hit pause and ponder that. Did you come up with anything? Well, it turns out that 4 times 25 equals 100. Now, whatever I do to the denominator down here, I need to do to the numerator up here. So I'm going to multiply it by 25 and know that 25 hundredths is equal to 25 hundredths. Look at how when I say 25 hundredths, it says the same thing as when I write it in a decimal, 25 hundredths. Amazing. Let's try another. If I have 3 twentieths and I want to find out what decimal it's equal to, the first thing I'm going to do is find out what other fraction is it equal to that's going to give me either a tenths, a hundredths, or a thousandths place. In this case, let's start with, again, tenths. Is there anything times 20 that's going to equal 10? Well, since 20 is already larger than 10, the answer is no. So, is there anything times 20 that will equal 100? Press pause if you need to think about what that number might be. Did you come up with 5? Because 20 times 5 is 100. And you know that whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator. So the answer is going to be 15 hundredths. Say that again. 15 hundredths. How is that going to look? I'm going to put 15 in the hundredths place. Now you grab a piece of paper and try to solve 2/5 is equal to what decimal? Copy this down, solve the work, and then press play and come back. Did you start with the tenth? Is there anything times 5 that equals 10? Sure, 2. So the numerator needs to be multiplied by 2 as well. That gives me 4. 4 tenths is the same thing as 4 tenths. We've gone from fractions to decimals, but what about decimals to fractions? If I have a number like 39 hundredths, what fraction do you think is equal to that? I believe it is more simple to move from a decimal to a fraction because I hear the fraction name. Let's say it again, 39 hundredths. Well, what does 39 hundredths look like in a fraction? 39 hundredths. I hear the name. It does seem simpler, doesn't it? What if I want to place these fractions and decimals on a number line? Let's think about that. The first thing I need to do is draw my number line. Go ahead and draw one just like this. Hit pause if you need to. You can put it on that same piece of paper where you've been solving the other problems. With this number line, I know that at one end I'm going to have a 0 and a 1. How do I know that? Because fractions and decimals are less than 1. I would like you right now to put the fraction and the decimal that goes right there in the middle. Maybe put the decimal on top and the fraction up here and the fraction down here, and write down the fraction and the decimal that go on this number line. I'm going to hit pause while you go ahead and draw that yourself and then come back when you're done. What fraction did you come up with? Well, half is here in the middle, and 5/10 is the same as half, and that goes here as well. I'm going to list some other numbers down here at the bottom, and I'd like you to copy these down and place them on the number line where you think they go. Let's see. Let's do 8/10, 25 hundredths, 42 hundredths, and 3/4. Go ahead and place all four of these decimals and fractions, and if you can, they're opposite above and below the number line. Come back and push play when you're ready to see the answers. How did you figure this out? The first thing I notice is this number, 25 hundredths. So I'm going to start with that one. I know that 25 hundredths goes right here because it's halfway between 0 and 5/10. I also happen to know, know that 1/4 is the same thing as 25 hundredths, so I'm going to stick that on. I'm going to cross this off for now. Now I'm going to look at 42 hundredths. Again, I know that 42 hundredths comes between 25 hundredths and 5/10, so I'm just going to put it on here as best I can, about right there. I know that I write 42 hundredths, 42 over 100, that's 42 hundredths. I'm also going to place my 3/4 because I happen to know that 3/4 comes right here between a half and a whole. So 3/4 gets written like this. I'm going to tell you that I happen to know the answer is 75 hundredths. If you can't solve that one by yourself, don't worry about it. The last one is 8/10, this fraction down here. Where would it go? Well, I know that 8/10 is greater than 75 hundredths, or 7/10, so I'm going to place it over here and put 8/10 above and write 8/10 down here below. Your number line should look about like mine. Now I'd like you to take that same piece of paper, turn it over, and fold it into quadrants, or 4/4. Then I'd like you to copy down what you see here on this paper. Every time you see a fraction, convert it to a decimal. Every time you see a decimal, convert it to a fraction. And then on the back side where you were showing some of your other work, draw a number line and place all the fractions and all the decimals on that number line between 0 and 1. Bring this in with you to school. I can't wait to see you tomorrow.